Get ready to learn how to make the most delicious brownie ever. And this video is like a mini masterclass. I go into so much details about making brownies, getting to know your cake ingredients. So make sure you watch this entire video. Let's start by looking at the ingredients and the tools that you're going to need to make this delicious brownie. Let me first reassure you, none of the ingredients that you need for this brownie is difficult to obtain. There's something that you can easily get in your local supermarket, so no fancy ingredients. Also, the tools that you need are pretty simple. Now, I'm going to show you how to make this brownie without using a mixer. So if you don't have a hand mixer or a stand mixer, you've got this covered. You can easily make this brownie recipe without any fancy tools. Of course, if you have a stand mixer or a hand mixer, you can use that as well. It would make certain parts a lot easier. But for the purpose of my viewers who don't have a stand mixer or a hand mixer, we're going to show you how to make this delicious brownie just using the tools that you probably have in your kitchen. Okay, enough of talking. Let's look at the ingredients that's going to go into our brownie recipe. So the sugar is brown sugar. Brown sugar is white sugar that has molasses added to it. So it has a very nice toasty, nutty type flavor profile, which adds a lot of flavor and taste to our brownies. Of course, it's a chocolate-based brownie, so we are going to use chocolate. We're going to be using dark chocolate. Now, most people run away from dark chocolate because it's quite bitter if you're not used to the taste of dark chocolate. Most people prefer milk chocolate, which is sweeter. I would advise for this recipe, do not swap from dark chocolate to milk chocolate. In this recipe, the dark chocolate is absolutely essential to get that right balance of taste. Don't forget, you are using sugar in your brownie recipe, so you don't need tons of sweetness from the milk chocolate. So if you swap with milk chocolate, I'm afraid you're going to have a brownie that tastes super, super, super sweet. And that's not what we're going for. If you do want to swap with milk chocolate, you might need to remove a bit of sugar. But again, you are going to change the whole consistency of the brownie. So just stick with using good quality dark chocolate. This works well, balances the flavor. Dark chocolate has more cocoa in it, so it really just works well with this brownie recipe. So you're just going to have to trust me on that. We're going to be using butter, again, unsalted butter. Now, I'm a big fan of salted butter. In fact, I switched to using salted butter for like my buttercreams and stuff. But for this brownie recipe, we don't really need that salty component. We just need plain old butter. So just using unsalted butter. Preferably your butter should be at room temperature, but this is one cake recipe where it actually doesn't matter what temperature your butter is because we're going to be melting the butter. So even if you have not taken the butter out beforehand and it's straight from the fridge, you can just use it like that. This is the one recipe. Well, not just the one, but normally with cake recipes, we say use room temperature butter. But for brownie, it doesn't matter because we're going to melt the butter anyway. And the other ingredients that we're going to be using is cocoa powder, plain flour, and I'm also adding some chocolate chip. Now, this particular recipe I'm making for Easter, so I'm adding a special ingredient, mini Easter eggs. So this is chocolate Easter eggs, which goes well with the theme of Easter. But if you are making this for any other occasion, and actually when I make this for any other occasion, I literally just, rather than using the mini eggs, you can swap that with chocolate chip. So you can use all milk chocolate instead of using the mini eggs, or you can do a mixture of white chocolate chip or dark chocolate chips, or actually you can swap with any other chunk of chocolate. So like your favorite chocolate, Kit Kat, whatever, just chop it up and use it instead. This recipe, it goes well with a lot of different varieties. So that is one aspect where you can switch up and experiment to make a brownie that suits you. So those are the ingredients that we need. Let's have a quick look at the tools that we need. So you're going to need 2 mixing bowls. So I've got one already that's got the sugar, and you're also going to need another mixing bowl. You're certainly going to need a sieve. Brown sugar clumps together when it's in the pack, and sometimes it can form hard lumps. So I always like to sieve my brown sugar. So you're going to need a sieve. It's just a normal standard kitchen sieve. You're also going to need a whisk. So this is for making this recipe without the use of any hand mixer or stand mixer. You can use a whisk, or if you're not got a whisk, you can use a spatula, but actually a whisk works better. And then you need a microwave to do the melting process. You can either melt your chocolate and butter in a microwave, or you can melt it over a stove if that's what you preferred. Melting it over the stove is a slower process, but it's more controlled and less risk of burning or over cooking the mixture, but the microwave is super fast. So that's what I'm going to use. And then last but not the least, you need your baking pan. So your baking pan is a brownie pan, a square pan, which I'm going to show you how to line. We're going to line it with baking paper. So it's always a good idea to prepare your cake tin before you start to do your ingredients. So let me clear out, make some space, and I'm going to show you how to line your brownie pan. So we're lining it with baking paper. So you want the paper to be slightly longer than the width of the pan, because that's going to help you to lift it out. This is a trick that I've seen on Instagram. So I'm going to try it out and see if it works actually. So what it says, because trying to fit it in like this, if you try and fit it in, it will just want to come out. So you're going to press the paper to make it crinkle, and then fold it back so you can see that it has less memory and it's more pliable, so that when you put it inside the pan, it stays better. So yeah, that works. Okay, so that's our pan line. Super simple and easy, and we're just going to put that aside until we need it. I'm going to be using 200 grams of dark chocolate. Now, because we're melting it, it doesn't have to be super fine or really broken down. So, and then with the butter, unsalted butter, I'm using 200 grams of unsalted butter. So what I'm going to do is press the 0 button so it goes back to 0, and then I'm just going to directly measure into the weighing scale. We're going to melt this down in the microwave. When you are melting chocolate in the microwave, you've got to be careful to do it in short blasts so that you don't burn the chocolate. So I would always recommend that you melt it in initially blasts of 30 seconds, bring it out, have a look, and then you can put it back if you still have big chunks. And don't be afraid, even if you have some small chunks, you can actually stir it and melt the chocolate because you have the residual heat in there. It's better to under melt it, for lack of a better word, and then stir, and then if you know that you find that you need to put it back in, and you put it back in for a shorter period, like 10 seconds or 5 seconds, just doing it really slowly so that you don't burn your chocolate and waste chocolate, because chocolate is not the cheapest of ingredients. After 30 seconds in the microwave, you can see the butter has started to melt, but the chocolate not so much yet. Let's pop it back into the microwave for another 30 seconds, and we're going to be doing that in blast of 30 seconds on and off until everything is properly melted. So this is after another 30 seconds. So a total of 1 minute so far in the microwave. So you can start to see definitely that the chocolate is melted, but you still have big chunks, so you need to go probably one more time. But I'm going to stir and just get as much as possible melted. You can actually start to see, because if you touch it, it's already warm. So that residual heat that's in the mixture will further melt some of the chocolate. So actually, when you put it back, it doesn't need as long as you would imagine. So you see what we started off with. And now, just by mixing, you can see that actually the lumps are not as big as they were. So this is something that I really got wrong when I first started working with chocolate. I'd bring it out of the microwave and then I'd be like, oh, there's still big chunks. It's got a long way to go. And then I put it back in for a longer period of time. And then I end up with chocolate that is burnt and unusable. And that's a waste of ingredients. So chocolate can be a very temperamental ingredients if you don't know how to work with it. So you can see not much left. It's looking so good. Oh, so excited. I think now we're just going to put it back for like 10 seconds, not more than that. It's nice and silky. Okay, so we're going to set this aside for a bit so that it cools down before we use it in our mixture. You know, one of the ingredients I forgot to bring out when I showed you all the ingredients that we need is eggs. We need eggs. So I've got the eggs here, and we're going to be whisking in the eggs with the sugar using our whisks. We're going to use a total of 4 eggs, but I want to just start to mix it in now, and then I'm going to add the rest of the eggs. It just makes it easier. So this is the bit where I said you can use your hand mixer or stand mixer. In fact, if you have a stand mixer or a hand mixer, I would most certainly recommend that you use it for this bit. It will save you the effort of doing it by hand. But I often have some comments saying, can I make this without a mixer? Or in a lot of forums, baking forums, you have people who don't have a mixer. And actually, I am lucky and blessed to have viewers from all parts of the world. And in some countries, actually having a mixer is expensive. Actually, not even just in all countries, even here in the UK, mixers are not the cheapest equipment. So if you're starting off, you may not be able to afford a mixer or even just want to get a mixer until you are sure that you are indeed, you know, like in baking. Okay, so it's ready. When you lift it up and it leaves like a trail like that, then you know that it's well whisked. So we're going to combine those together. We're going to use a technique called folding. This is a way that you gently mix one ingredient in with the other. So rather than a whisking method, which is quite vigorous, folding is very gentle. Think of how you fold clothes. Very deliberately, bringing one into the other, bringing one into the other, like that until it's well mixed. You don't want to knock out all the air from the mixture. If you notice, we haven't used any leavening agents. There's no baking powder, there's no bicarbonate of soda. The leavening agent is the eggs. So all the leavening comes from the eggs. So you don't want to knock out all that air from that mixture. So I'm just going to pour it in there. just gently going to fold, see, fold. So you can see that has combined nicely, but you've not knocked any of the air out. So let's put that aside and let's do the flour and the cocoa powder mixture. Directly, but you can sieve it if you're good. I don't think it matters so. Just give it a mix so that it's all combined together. So we're going to again fold, not whisking, not mixing, fold. So put a little bit and fold. Just go in, fold it in, go in, fold it in. Folding is a slow process, but it will help you make the most amazing fudgy, yummy brownie. Look at that. So that's what your mixture should look like. And at this stage, please step away and stop mixing. And now I'm going to gently fold the eggs and the chocolate chip. Just again, gently folding it into the mixture. So we're going to put it in the oven now. We're going to use the rest of the cream eggs as decorations. So we want to crush them. For pressing the bag, I'm going to whack it with a rolling pin. So we're going to melt some chocolate to use to drizzle the top of the brownie, and that just adds a nice effect on the brownie and also allows something to stick the eggs that we're going to sprinkle on the top. The brownie is not quite ready yet to be eaten. It's best to allow the brownie to set before eating. That allows it to develop the nice fudgy texture and makes it easier to cut. You can leave it in the cake pan to set for at least 2 hours or preferably overnight and then bring it out and it's ready to cut and be enjoyed. Gently just peel off the baking paper from the brownie. If it's really frozen, you might need to leave it out for a couple of minutes and then it'll be easy to take out the baking paper. And here is our beautiful looking brownie. Let's cut into it and see what it looks like inside. That looks delicious. I'm sure you will agree. So I hope that you have learned so much from this video. Try out this recipe. Happy baking! Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Dr. Mommy Cake's channel.